All right, we're here with Marilyn Rodman, candidate for Monteagle mayor. And Marilyn served two terms previously, totaling about 6 years. So she really needs no introduction. And she's running on the platform of restoring fiscal responsibility and accountability, transparency and fairness, and strategic planning and smart growth. And we'll get to all or as much of that as we can shortly. But just getting into this, I've heard from others that, so I've known you now for 7 years or so, but I've heard from others you're quite the street fighter in your previous political stints, and you didn't mind mixing it up a bit. But some good changes have happened in your life, and you wanted to run a race, win or lose, that you could be proud of, and no way wanted to resort to demonizing anyone. Not saying that was ever your intention, but or make anything personal. But you committed yourself to do what is termed as the Honorable Race Challenge, which people can read about if they go to your campaign page at Marilyn for Monteagle Mayor. And like every campaign, you've been through this a couple of times already. So you know, and we observe in many other campaigns that oftentimes negatives are leveraged, against an opposing opponent, candidate. And sometimes they're factual and legit, and sometimes they're not. Sometimes they're twisted or stretched. I mean, this is the common thing that everybody knows about politics. And a lot of people talk about wanting to change politics, but I think it was good for you to come out and sort of lead on that. And I think it's been pretty good for the most part in your race in Monteagle from what we've observed, but maybe a little bit. We're going to address some of that. But tonight you want to address the town people directly because you feel like talking straight and openly is what the people want and what they deserve. So let's start with a couple of things that have been posted online as well as relayed to you on the campaign trail by a few citizens, and you figured that between that there was maybe some legitimacy to it. You just wanted to come out, be upfront, and address it with people. The first one is the truck stop issue. There appears to be a truck stop coming to Monteagle. For the town, it's become quite the controversy, and some may even base their vote solely on this one issue. And there are issues like that that come up in campaigns. Like many of these issues, some people be for it, some people be against it. That's just the nature of these kind of things. Put the record straight. As far as you're concerned, you've been in the mayor's office, or you have not been in the mayor's office for the last 4 years, and neither have you been on any board. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
So would you like to put a simple disclaimer just off the top that this controversy and even a lawsuit, I've heard there's a lawsuit regarding this issue, is definitely not your fault. So, but since you've been implicated and perhaps maybe even somewhat blamed, you're here and willing to address it publicly. So here's the question. When did this whole issue start with the truck stop and the town, and what basic facts do you understand about it, and why it's become such a controversy?
Of course, I have not been to that many meetings. I've just recently started going, but it was probably, I want to say, well, presentation maybe June, July. I'm not really sure, when it was actually presented to. It goes to the Planning Commission first, but presented to them. And the only reason I was actually notified is someone said there was a map change and nobody knows when it happened, and it was referred to, it was on their watch. Well, I said, no, there was not a zoning change on my administration's watch in that area. Some had been done prior, and then this did not happen. So of course you go back and you start doing some research in their minutes, and you see in 2016 through 2020, who was on the Planning Commission board, who was also on the City Council, and who actually were the ones that addressed and made these changes. But as a citizen, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I'm sorry. So I just want to make sure, just so people understand, you're saying that somebody bought land under the assumption that they could use it for what the land is zoned for. This is not a matter of who is opposed for or against, but this is just a matter of you got some land, it's sitting there, supposed to be zoned. I don't know all the details of this, but I just know it's become a controversy, and I'm just kind of wondering how it become a controversy. So apparently there's some change, and it was made sometime in the last 4 years. Is that fair? Is that what you're saying?
Yes, that's what I'm saying. And again, I have not actually spoke to the person, how they bought the land, but apparently it was so, and it has been addressed that it was sold as commercial property, which is C3.
Okay, so you heard, I mean, you actually had some people on the campaign trail. You're out on the ground week to week, and you're doing a lot of social media and stuff too. And I guess you were shocked to hear somebody said that you brought the truck stop to Monteagle. And first of all, I just want to ask you, do you have that much power as a private citizen to, and as a matter of fact, something like that has to go through the town and the council, as you said, the planning commission and stuff like that. So what did you think about hearing a statement that somebody has blamed you for bringing the truck stop to Monteagle?
Well, I'm just, it's shocking and you're alarmed, and no, I don't have that power to do that, and neither did I. But the issue at hand is why blame, a resident. That's what was happening. Why blame former mayors whenever it wasn't under their administration? When that partial blame was changed, why not deal with your problem and go on? I can, if you don't mind.
Yeah,
go ahead. I'm sorry. Well, one of the things just to note here is when I was mayor, we did record our meetings, and we actually, paid an outside person to come in and video. And then we also, of course, would have those run on the local TV station. And if we did make an error, planning commission or council, we would go back and look at that DVD.
Have it on record, yeah, and other people can call you to it too at the next meeting, which we're even going to get into more of some of that, because you're definitely, the candidate of transparency. That's, I mean, it's just not even your issue really, and you're willing to talk about it. So I just thought it was amazing that somebody, would wedge this against you, that you're running for mayor. Now that you're running for mayor, when all this happened, while you've been a private citizen. So I have another question. Where do you think your opponent stands on this issue? And do you think that he should state publicly his position, since he is the current vice mayor and he is also running for mayor as your opponent? And the fact that the issue is before them currently, do you think that if it's put out there that you brought it, or that people's using it against you to get a vote or whatever, do you think that he should have to come out and clarify publicly his statement about it, or answer for the stuff that's happening while their administration's in process?
Yes, I mean, I do. I mean, that's just, the thing to do. Again, that decision, and if you go back to their own minutes, you will see who the ones were on the planning commission. You will see who was on the council during this time frame and when those things were done. And then for somebody to have the audacity to blame a citizen, and this thing has drug on, until an election. Basically, we're at 10 days. So yeah, what was their opinion? What is your opinion? What did you do with it? Your handprints all over it. Then why are they not being asked that question? Because they were not a resident. I was. It's pretty amazing how this is happening.
So even if, I mean, let's just say hypothetically, and this is not something you said, but even if you were for something, would it not just be your right or your opinion as a private citizen? I'm just, from an outside perspective, doesn't every citizen have a right to say, yeah, I would like to see another business in town, or no? And this is split. I mean, there's some people for and against for various reasons, but I mean, as a citizen, you would have a right. So it would be the end of the world if you said you were for it, but you haven't. It's just that it seems to be an issue that can conveniently be used for somebody who might say, I'm totally against the truck stop, and for someone to say, well, I'm going to stop it, which makes me another point too, because just for clarity, again, you alone could not advance a decision like this, even if you were the mayor, correct?
Correct. It would go before the planning commission. Of course, it's presented to the state planner or to the state. I mean, there's different protocols which you use. They would go before the planning commission. They would, recommend or deny, usually if that's at one meeting. Then, of course, that would go to the council. then the council would, of course, accept or deny the recommendation. If that was denied, then there is a BZA board of zoning and appeals, that board, which should be an independent group, it's still under the town's auspice, but is an independent group, should be different people, that makes a decision. Do we want to go for it, and could give them a variance to continue?
Yeah, so the aldermen are they're like representatives for the people. You can't just arbitrarily say you will or will not do something. I mean, you don't have the power, even if you were in the mayor's position. And so I just thought it odd for somebody, if this was the truth, and I don't know why a voter you would hear this more than once, but for somebody to use this to convince citizens that somehow you could on your own stop it or make it happen is really not true. And there's something else. It's common for newspapers and media outlets to interview candidates during election cycles. And I know a local paper called The Messenger interviewed you and your opponent, and it seemed like, it just seemed like from reading, and maybe your interpretation was the same, I'm not sure, but that the truck stop was inevitable. That it was coming and it was going to happen. When your opponent was interviewed, did you take that, or could that be made out of that? Is it a fair assessment or interpretation?
I think, of course, that is in print. That it says that Petro was going to happen, according to the article. On the there's two different things here. There's one plot of land, I think that's 20 some odd acres, and then there's a smaller lot that was residential that got changed somehow. For a long time, they didn't know how they changed it, but it's in their minutes. They went through the process, but apparently it's been done wrong. Again, I'm going by hearsay. I'm not saying anything in writing, but since I'm being blamed for this issue, I'm doing some research to find out. But is that apparently that he said it is going to happen, but the 7 acres was in question. So, and I'm just going by what was in that article. So I've not spoke to my opponent, but I read the article like everyone else. Yes.
So again, and this is another verbatim quote that you heard on the campaign trail. You're not saying it's true. You're not saying the citizen or the voter is lying, but you're just saying this is what you were told, that they were told by your opponent that he would stop it.
Yes.
Again, we don't know. We're just saying so anyway, regardless of what he has said or done or is doing, the fact is you're, as a citizen, you're going to run for the mayor of Monteagle. You have a proven record, a history, 6 years you served on the alderman board prior to that. And even the fact that some may be frustrated, if that's true, that they're willing to say that publicly. And I just think, like you, what's wrong with being transparent? What's wrong with publicly taking a position? What is wrong with videoing not just your council meetings, but even your town halls? I mean, what's wrong with having that? Because I think that's safer for everybody. If you have something sometimes verbatim, it kind of protects you. So do you think that if this is true, that it's just kind of a potential ploy to get some votes, depending on who is for or who is against? I mean, why else would that be used if that is true?
Well, based upon what I've been told, it is true. And again, I'm out door to door. I've got emails. I've talked to people on the phone in Texas. So that has, to me, it's come as a true statement. Yes, of course it would be, because when I had no involvement, I'm a resident. I work for a living. You know what I'm saying? I'm not holding any positions. As you say, I'm not on committees. So it's a negative. It is affecting a neighborhood there because of the transition that was made. And why would I be blamed for it? I even heard one today when I was out and about that I caused all this to happen, and I'm like, how did I cause it to happen?
Certain. And you're not saying you're for it or you're not saying against it. I mean, this is not really, if you're sitting there as a mayor, and it doesn't really matter to a great extent whether you're for or against something, it's still got to be by the book. It's got to be by the rules. If somebody has a right to buy a piece of property that's zoned and build something, then, whether that's current administration, previous administration, I mean, that's just the way it is. And you really get in trouble if you try to go back and change something after the fact. That's why we have procedures. That's why we have zonings and laws. But you're just saying that in the event that this is still an ongoing issue, you'll just have to gather all the facts, have things reviewed, be fair across the board, and no matter what decision the board and the process conclusion comes to, that somebody's not going to like the outcome. So this is not about your personal opinion for or against. And just like you say, well, we're not for, but you're not against either. So there's a second part of this, and I just appreciate your willingness to come out and just handle the stuff head on. That's kind of what you have a reputation for, from what I've gathered over the last 7 years. I've talked to a lot of different people, met different people alongside you that knows you, that speaks some of these, comic and character traits you have, but I'm sorry. The other part of this equation is that you have an incentive because your husband been offered a job, not just one, but several jobs within the region, which, is his personal business. But, the bad thing about politics sometimes is, unfair spouses or family get brought into stuff and be made to look a certain way, but including a job with the new truck stop. And I just want to ask you a question. I mean, first of all, sometimes it's hard to compartmentalize all this out, but is there a crime with being offered a job?
Not that I know of in America. And of course, now I will say this, and I mean, maybe it's changed in the last 24 hours, but I'm not aware of it, if it has. But the thing about this as well is there is no facility there. We all know this, you know what I'm saying? There's no travel center. There's nothing. My husband is probably one of the best in the business. He actually works for a large corporation for Pilot. He's a GM. And he's been doing this 25 years, but he's impeccable at what he does, his integrity, and how he runs. He is a great manager. That's the reason he gets offers all the time.
Why wouldn't anybody? I mean, you have to be insane not to. Yeah, you'd have to be insane not to want somebody that successful and that much management experience. Whether it is, of course, they just recently built a Love's truck stop down in South Pittsburgh, and they're building another one in Manchester. And, not to get into personal business, but he's been offered jobs going back for quite a while, and he stayed where he's at. But isn't his right, if he chooses to take a job, whether it's across the street or 25 miles down the road or in another state, is that not his right to do that if he chooses to?
Well, most people say it is right. And like I said, as citizens, then there is no conflict there. We do not create this problem. It was brought to the current planning commission. It was brought to the current board. It is drawn out for some reason. I will, if elected, do the right thing. I will not create a conflict of interest. I have been in that situation before, and I will deal with the right thing at the right time. My daughter was a certified police officer. She was certified, of course, with the state of Tennessee Post. She was certified in domestic violence. She was certified in school zoning because, that was later after Sandy Hook. And she didn't have insurance, and she was making a minimal amount of money. And I would not allow her to work under the governing body of Monteagle as a police officer. I wouldn't even allow her to interview.
Even though
she was qualified, and I said, and of course, at that time, we had a different chief, but I would tell the same chief. I said, you cannot work here because that's a conflict of interest.
Yeah,
and I would not allow it.
So even when it would have been legit on paper in terms of how it would be viewed, qualifications and all, you chose. It's kind of like reminds me of the scripture in the Bible that says, abstain from all appearance of evil. And sometimes we make an effort to go above and beyond because we do want to earn. I mean, let's face it, politicians, good ones, bad ones, whatever, they're all under the same microscope. And sometimes like used car salesmen, good ones get a bad rap, but still people kind of make that assumption that nepotism and those kind of things is just a standard practice. But you really wanted to break that. You really wanted to show that, even if it was your own, you were going to do what's right. And I think that's what's earned you a great deal of confidence and has really made the movement, bring back Marilyn. So, do you feel like that if this is true, that this has been made to shift to make it look like your deal, that is somehow to shift away from the attention all this happened currently, that the debacle, the controversy, and there's a current lawsuit now about this issue. I mean, do you feel like that is, just sometimes people put something out there to get the limelight off themselves?
Well, apparently it is. It's smoke and mirrors when it began, the source of it, because it's not, I mean, that would be like coming out here and picking anyone out of the street saying it's your fault. You did this and did that. So, I mean, I know some of it's politics, but some of it's totally ridiculous, and again, it's happened on the trail. And we want to also, can I clarify one thing here? I know in this discussion, everyone's saying, well, this shouldn't be here and this shouldn't be there. Well, before I left the office, we had a architect's drawing, a rendering of a plan for Monteagle, and we call that Monteagle 2020. That, of course, is on our website. It's on Facebook, and we can get the files to anyone who wants it. That was put together in town hall meetings with the people, with businesses, with their partners, with different resources. And that was identified as a certain piece of property that went from exit 134 to 135. And that was we called the downtown corridor, which would have been basically, we were working to make that the downtown, to make it better presentable with the kids, with parks, with sidewalks and lighting, with
So
mom and pop businesses.
Yeah, you care if I interject right here just for a minute, because it made me think. I remember seeing Monteagle, down the street, and I remember kind of all at once there was this flow of improvement. It's a really neat place. I think Virgil McNeese said it, if I can quote him correctly, because it was such an amazing quote. I heard him say, he said Monteagle was the closest place you could get to God without leaving here. I thought that was pretty good. But in your plan, you had town beautification, and there's always somebody to be critical about how money's spent, and you did a really good job of getting grants, which we're going to talk about more in a minute. But the town beautification, I just remember seeing the lighting and trees and just different things, and maybe some of them was there and I didn't notice it, but I just remember starting to notice, wow, this gives you it almost sounds a little bit cliche, but it looks a little Christmassy up there. When you drive down the strip in the wintertime and all the leaves are gone, so you get a little snow and you got those lights. But y'all did a really, really, really good job on some of that. And but let me just move on to something real quick. You kind of have made yourself the candidate for transparency, and is this why you're willing to step out in front when this really isn't your issue? I mean, this maybe truck stop, and it may become, but it'll be wherever it's at the time you may have to deal with it. But I mean, you're willing to step out. You're willing to address something that the people are caring about, even when you're not the one in office, and it's going on currently.
Yes, and the other reason why is apparently there's been this neighborhood organization. There's been another organization called Upper Plateau Preservation Society, and apparently they've had some of these discussions, but it's two of the people that I know directly that are members of it. I said, well, actually three. I know the chair that put it together. Actually, it's a good friend of mine, and we talked. I said, why didn't they come to me? Why was I not asked these questions instead of people making false accusations? I mean, there's been some other ones that are just totally ridiculous that have been made. And then I'm being blamed for something that I didn't do, which is pulling away, from the real issue here at hand and who did do it and how it was done. And, that's the leadership that they've had. So will that continue? You know what I'm saying? Because it is a leadership decision collectively. And again, you can read their own minutes. They're on the website, and don't take my word for it. Go find out for yourself. However, that is substantial information instead of going on rumors and lies and innuendos and smoke and mirrors. However, and a lot of these people I've talked to.
You actually had somebody tell you that they early voted based on the sole thing of being told that the person they were voting for was going to stop the truck stop. And I thought, oh my goodness. I mean, this is not you again. You're not attacking anybody. This is somebody actually told you that they have voted for your opponent because they were assured that they were going to stop the truck stop. Is that true or false?
That is true that they said they voted for him because they said they had stopped the truck stop. I said, you say stall? I said, well, I guess you drank the Kool-Aid, didn't you? Because you haven't read this past week's Messenger, because that's not what it says.
Okay, so let's move on to another issue. I mean, just your willingness to talk about the truck stop and really be personal ways that you don't have to be. But the number two issue that you want to address, and this is the second of the negatives, and then we're going to move on to some other stuff. But there's the claim out there that you, quote, lived it up on the town's dime, so to speak. It's not actually a direct quote, but that is the expression. And this was insinuated publicly. I think it was on a couple of Facebook profiles. And it also, which you don't always pay attention, but when it comes straight from the horse's mouth, as the old saying goes, I mean, you take it's out there. But you also had a couple of people on the campaign trail, and they were actually shown expense reports that the town incurred while you were mayor, and these for expenditures justifiable, whether they agreed with how much or not, it was justifiable. When you went to Nashville or Memphis or Knoxville or Chattanooga, what would these expenses have been for? Just, you can speak to that as much as you like.
We went to training, we went to events, we went to tourism meetings. We actually were creating relationships. Some things, went to the governor's inaugurations. We worked with commissioners. We had the governor come up here numerous times. We have relationships, had relationships, and still have them with a lot of people with tourism. That's one of the reasons, back when one thing's connected to the other, we received grants from the governor. We would apply for grants. Not only the governor, but of course, one time we went to a TML meeting, and one of the things is you would not be covered under sexual harassment unless all your employees had taken this class. So after we found that out, we had the class at town hall, like a day, 2 different times, so all the employees could take it. Because if you ever do, and I'm not saying anybody does anything, but you're ever accused of it, you're not even going to be covered if you haven't taken this class. There's so many other things that we brought here that we did. Well, I think if you look at the financial statement, that money was invested not only in myself, but other employees, other board members. Yes, I did it, and I ran myself to death. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, so but I thought that, we're going to be ultimately where we're going to get to. So my understanding, just through our discussions over time, that when you first came into office at the beginning of your 6 years, things were kind of a mess, and there was something like 25 negative findings by the state, and actually Monteagle had been under a moratorium for 8 years or so. Is that close to accurate, and can you explain what that means to the citizens?
Well, the moratorium, of course, at that point in time, because the sewer plant was not adequate and was failing, that's when we got the grant for actually it wasn't. We actually decided to build the plant, but then the stimulus money came in, and we got $1.5 million is what we got of stimulus money. That was back, I can't remember the year. That's documented as well with some photographs. So we were able to build the sewer plant and to replace lines and to work on roads because lines had been destroyed on those roads. We got, out of $8 million, $4.5 million was forgiven at a 1.75% interest rate. But with that, you're working with TDEC, you're working with people, you're getting people in compliance, you're finding rules, regulations. Yes, tourism's part. What is happening? Who's being promoted? What are you getting done? And there's a representation, getting to know your commissioners. I mean, I met with, the majority of the commissioners. Another example, the previous commissioner of transportation, I knew him quite well, met with him on different occasions in Nashville and different times. He came to Monteagle. He and I discussed it, and I showed him what we wanted, and he put the 3-lane out in front of Pilot at no cost to the town. That's several $100,000 to have those relationships and to build that trust with people. Yes, they paid for the hotel bill, or they paid for the fuel. If I drove my vehicle, later I drove to the towns, and they paid for meals for me, or for the staff that went with me, or for the other board members that went.
So
but not.
you didn't just go for everything was pretty good. You had good surpluses in the town. Everything was pretty. There's always things to do. There's always maintenance and upkeep. But I mean, you really went in there and kind of rolled your sleeves up, so to speak, and had to work double hard to fix a lot and plug a lot of holes in the old sinking ship, so to speak, and really get Monteagle to a better place. And I think the record from a fiscal standpoint, after rolling your sleeves up and about 2 years of really hard work, from that point on, the remainder of your term, you actually achieved a Ford GFOA award during the last 4 years of your administration, correct?
Yes. And and of course, I thought it was 0, but it was down to 1 findings from 25. I'm not saying we didn't make mistakes. We weren't perfect, but we did build the town. We built relationship both internally and externally, and we invested in the town and in the community, and it does take boots on the ground to do it. One time I was at a tourism meeting in Knoxville, but I had arranged the first ever job fair, that was here, and also workforce development, but we did it with 3 counties because Monteagle's 3 counties. It was one of the first things we did collectively. I came back that morning to be able to launch the workforce development job fair, make sure that it got going back, but there was certain elements in the tourism industry that was changing and working with them, so I went back that afternoon. So it wasn't like this was as they say, fine dining and fine hotels. That's almost an insult.
At the end of the day, if they host an event, conference hotel isn't cheap, but don't the council have
stay where they are.
Don't the council have to give some kind of a budget? Or this is what's crazy. After all this time, you've never been accused of cheating the town or bagging, lining your pockets or anything like that. And here we are right before an election, and this is somebody actually said that they were called in to show some proof, and they kind of laughed and said, well, that's how you get things done. There has to be some investment. That just shows you. I think they said that just shows that she was working. So, and Monteagle is not like 2 miles from Nashville, or 15 minutes from Knoxville. You have to go and stay wherever is available or wherever the event's being held. But there's money built in for that. And I think everybody understands when you get things done, when you get things done in a small town, they have to understand that it takes great representation in Nashville. You have to cultivate those relationships. There's people and connections, and it's about connections. And you're putting Monteagle on the map. You're saying, here I am, look over here, because there is money available and somebody will visit and get behind your initiatives and your vision. And that's just how it works. And, kind of think it's time for Monteagle to have some good representation up there at the Capitol again, don't you?
Yeah, but here's the other thing, we were talking about the governor, we're talking about grants. We had one grant, which it goes back to the first question you asked me. If we say we planned, it was smart planning. It wasn't my plan, it was the town's collectively. And that back to a reference, Monteagle 2020. So the governor came up, he awarded us, it was $200,000 plus that was going to continue sidewalks and lighting from Sampley Street out to Pilot. Let me note something here. When Pilot was first built, it was built by Steve Williams. I met with Steve Williams engineers and the architects because they came up, they were going through the process, and I requested, would you put in the sidewalks and lighting? He said, we talked for it a little bit. A couple of the council people were in there. I think it was the late Harry Parmley and Lexi Orr. I know our utility people were in there. And he said, sure. I said, I want, similar to what the Avenue, they were just building that. They just built it down in Murfreesboro. He said, sure, give me a picture. He said, we will do it. They paid for that. That's a plus if you do the right thing for the right reasons.
You do it. Yeah.
But the thing we had received this grant. Well, we found out some of the infrastructure there where the sidewalks and lighting would go needed to be totally taken out. Tile work, just certain water lines would have to be replaced. So they gave us the additional money, was going to cost Monteagle $15,000 for a $285,000 grant. That would have finished the lighting and the sidewalk from Sampley Street to Pilot. We had easements for each, and this is the reason I'm bringing this out. This is the location that was already planned. We were connecting the sidewalks. So there was easements from every property owner from there to Pilot, and it would have began, of course, the following, spring after the election. However, that didn't happen, which again, there wouldn't be any discussion of a travel center anywhere or certain things in the corridor plan because there was a plan that got discarded, and apparently nobody knows where the drawings are again.
Yeah, and to be clear, you're not trying to disenfranchise any new business now. You're just saying, had the plans at that time been developed, that part of the controversy wouldn't have existed. But we are where we are now, regardless. And either way, it looks like if you win this election again, that you will have to, unless they get it all resolved in the next 12 days or so, that you're going to have to deal with some of it. So I'll get back to the expenses for a second. You kind of went above and beyond for trainings and meetings and events in order to get not only yourself certified, which is kind of standard practice, and you're certified in quite a bit of stuff, and we won't belabor all of that, but there was other people in the town who either wasn't certified or was under-certified, and you really had to kind of work hard for a while because risk assessment and liabilities, certifications are important. All those things really matter, policies, procedures, et cetera. So you kind of had to go above and beyond for a while, maybe do a little more than normal to get things out of the hole. Now, we're not trying to say anybody else hasn't done a good job, but I mean, when you hand people the keys, you may have problems because one administration can't fix everything. So kudos to any administration who does something positive, but it's a lot easier when you have the doggone money to do it. I mean, I can tell you right now, spending money is a whole lot easier than saving money. But I mean, it accomplished a lot of things, and there was a lot of money in different accounts. And we're going to put the facts and figures out there for everybody to decide. But you also cultivated relationships with those important people, and even at times you brought some of those people to Monteagle, and you accommodated them accordingly because that's what you do. There's nothing wrong about it. It's just saying, take them to a nice dinner. Again, they want to be impressed with Monteagle and how you represent yourself, and you're really representing the town, professionalism, et cetera. So I think it comes down to, an investment versus reward thing. And, how much, just to put it on the record, how much did you make as the mayor for a lot of this hard work? It's obvious you did a lot with the results.
Well, you don't do it for that. The council at that point in time, when we were there, got $250 a month, and the mayor got $500.
So wait a minute.
So
you made $500 a month.
Yeah.
Okay, so you hold a couple of degrees, right? You have the ability to go a lot of places and make good money. And you've already stated previously that if you're not dirty, there's no advantage to being a politician, because after all, it's what you make is $500. So, a few extra dollars. You stayed at a $125 hotel versus a $75 hotel. And that's kind of facetious, but I mean, it's kind of what it gets down to. So for $125 a week average salary, you worked your tail off, just to put it in hillbilly terms. And
and we'd do it again. But one of the things about the hotels is you stayed where the event was. If the governor's event was at the Omni, or if it was at downtown Chariton, or if that's where the conference was, it wasn't like you picked your room. You know what I'm saying? That you stayed where the event was. We weren't the ones that dictated that. So, like I said, and it wasn't that you took your, they didn't pay for your family, where you went on the outings like that. If your family went and stayed with you,
buy
like
you any Corvettes or side by side?
No, didn't. No, I don't have any side by Actually, we bought used vehicles, but they were the town's. They weren't ours.
So,
but no, that was that.
The governor. When the governor comes to Monteagle more than once, for whatever reason, that's a big deal. There's 95 counties in the state of Tennessee. And I'm sure Monteagle is probably, which is not a county, but a little township, is impressive when the governor comes to a little town of, 1,000, 1,200 people or whatever. And it came 2 or 3 times. And I remember one time, there was some pictures with some pretty large checks. So I just think it puts to bed this idea that, again, it's to show the people that you have to have a little expense if you're going to represent the town well and really get things done. So I think at the end of the day, you kind of you maybe bring a little clarity to some gotcha politics, and maybe that works for a few votes, but I think it's just good to educate the people.
Well, and you said this before, and let's just put it in hypothetical terms. There's audits done every year. If I'd been a crook and had been, squandered all this money and wasted all this money like this, that would have been noted in those audits 4 years ago. So you tell me, I mean, come on. And if those people choose to believe that, I mean, people work in the real world, they know how they handle it, whether they're driving their vehicle or somebody else's, whether they're staying for their company, you know what I'm saying? So the real world does these things, and I think the majority of the people that's saying it and showing it does too. So, I mean, I don't know. Again, why is it out there? Smoke and mirrors?
I know a lot of companies that make, that literally pay $100 to $175 a day per diem. Sound like you were pretty busy for a period of 6 years. So regardless, I think the results speak for themselves, because when it comes to money, since that's kind of the subject of the jab, the results and the balance sheet was pretty phenomenal when you left office, which is not the case today. And we're going to be putting more out there and talking about that. And that's not to demonize anybody. That's just saying that you can get carried away with not good planning when other money is available and spend too aggressively and put things at a vulnerable levels. But I want to move on to another aspect, and we've kind of talked about some of it already, but just accomplishments. Maybe just take a minute off the top of your head and just talk about, as you can recollect, just different accomplishments that you were able to do. You, and as you've always said, it's not just you. It took a lot of good people, including the citizens, for various workshops and town halls and stuff, but y'all come up with some good stuff and you got some good results.
Well, for a long time, I recently saw this post where that we had community events, whether it be somebody did winemaking or somebody did couponing, or I'm talking about getting to the people. We did movies in the park. We did music in the park. The car shows were started under administration with John and Tony. Of course, they worked with the fire department to do that, but that was their baby. Of course, we started the Easter egg hunt because South Cumberland had stopped theirs. We started that under administration. Alvin was with the ball field. He actually got the ball program going again, because you have to consider a lot of this may have not been going. We actually put boots on the ground and developed the Mountain Goat Trail with working with them, Nate Wilson and others that were very close with that, which gave outdoor activities. We did the Halloween parades with the school, our Trunk or Treasures. I'm just thinking of small things right now because we did give back to community. We sponsored school programs. There were so many things that we were giving back to the community while we were still, of course, building a sewer plant, repairing the roads. We had road committees. I could go through the list, just document who they are. We did it in a priority list, and those were formed. That wasn't me and the council sitting there going, oh, I'm going to do this road. We also worked with the other counties to get those things done. What we did with the vehicles, we did buy some new vehicles, but most of it, the late Harry Parmley, we worked out a program to where that we could buy surplus vehicles, and they would work just as well. Now, you can't always buy surplus vehicles, but some cases you can, and it's going to save money for the town. I.e.,
on top of, multiple grants, we're not talking about $500, $2,500 grants. We're talking about $4 million loan forgivenesses, things that were applied for and networked with those people that you met and talked to, and other people from the community helped. It was a real a corporate effort, if you will, to really get some of that money that was available, and to reduce those audit findings, to clean up the vulnerabilities and the liabilities through risk assessment and all those other things. But that's a lot to tackle at one time. And here's the thing, not everybody knows, what you do on a daily basis or a weekly basis. And as you've said, nobody's saying they're perfect. You could even you think you're making the best decision in the moment, and later say, well, we should have did it a little different way. And that's part of it. I think any reasonable person, understands that. But to make a real effort, get that much done when you have to work with other people. I just think it's a testimony to you and to your leadership, and to those that worked around you. People got together and got some things done. So lastly, again, you made the pledge, if you will, to you don't want to get into mudslinging, and I appreciate you for that. I think people's found enough of that in politics, but you have a right to have some concerns. You've been willing to talk about things publicly. You've been willing to be transparent. You're on the record. People can watch this video, play it, share it, quote you. So you're not running from anything. But from a private citizen perspective, as well as somebody that's equipped with the knowledge of how business should be conducted, what concerns do you have? Maybe things you've observed or things that you've heard other people talking about. What would you like to explained maybe from the current administration, the mayor?
Well, I mean, you've got 18 months here, and if you want to say that, or 4 years, why is there no transparency? Why has expenses increased and income decreased on an extreme rate, which we'll go with those numbers? But also, this is a tax-based town. We don't have property taxes in the town of Monteagle. So there's revenue generated from sales taxes from your businesses, from liquor by the drink tax, from your hotel and motel tax, and your tourism tax. So that's sales taxes is how it is. Why do we take our police cars and our vehicles out of the city limits to a garage somewhere else, like in Clouds Hill, and related to the people on the board? And why we've been doing that whenever we have 2 good garages here in town?
So
why are we doing things?
Taxpayers' money obviously goes to run your police and your fire, and we thank God for it. And those things have to have
sales tax.
Sales tax. I'm sorry. And that's done through a local business, or it should be done through local business. And you're saying that changed. That was the case, and then it changed.
Yeah, well, I know that was us, but it has changed. Now, if there's certain things that locals can't take care of, or it's a specialty, then when you buy a new police car, it'll go back to the place where it should go. But why is it not being done? These people that set up a business, established a business, that have a business here in town, and I'm not saying one, I'm saying multiples. If they're not doing their job, then note that and say why. But if they're not, why are they not being utilized? Because they're the ones that supporting you with their sales tax dollars.
Yeah, and so
that's the way.
Yeah, if a precedent has been set, if something has been established where they have somewhere to take the vehicles, and then there needs to be a change, should that case not be made in a transparent way, a board decision, provide the evidence, here's why we need to do something different. Maybe the cost is too high. Maybe we need to shave some cost. Maybe the work is not getting, I don't know the details. I just know that, when people try to underhandedly or behind closed doors, take something small and make it really big about what you're doing. And then I think you have a right to raise a legitimate question. So why don't they come out and say, well, here's why we did this, or here's where we take the police cars now. And that might not be, again, it goes back to, one person can't do that. So either everybody's got to be implicit with it.
If you say one person,
right? Somebody could raise a rebuttal if they thought that didn't look good.
Yeah, they could. And why is it happening when that's your tax base? Why would you, there's certain things that you do in your town if you can, because those are the people that support you, and they're the ones that support your businesses. Now, there's some things that can't be done, but when it can, you go to your own first, right? That's what you should be doing. Another thing is, and it's a collective board. It's not one person's decision. If they see something being done wrong, or to question that, why, even with this whole debacle of this, purchasing property under one expectation, and then it being sold under another, and then it interfering, the ones who are going to lose is the town of Monteagle. You know what I'm saying? The neighbors are losing, the owners are losing, the town's going to lose. And who did that? The current leadership did it. It's a given. But yet they want to create a smoke and mirrors that somebody else created. But, why are they not recording that? And there's another one. that's really big. I recently heard that the fire department needs the keys re-keyed, the door locks. One's broken. That thing's only 6 months old. Don't you call warranty on it? Why can't you use a local to rekey it? Why do you have to get a locksmith? Why do you go to Chattanooga and get a locksmith if a local business can do it? Say whether you've got Ace or you've got Breeders or you've got somebody local. You know, Grundy County, Marion County, Franklin County. We're 3 counties. And go ahead, I'm sorry.
There's always those small variables. There may be a legitimate reason for some small thing, but I mean, you know, just when you see a pattern of things, I think you have a right to be, a little suspicious when you think, well, why? And at least if the question's asked, that shouldn't be a threat, right? They should be able to say, okay, well, here was the reason. And if it's satisfactory, if it's justifiable, fine, no big deal. But I think here's the thing: when you terminate transparency in terms of, okay, so the minutes are recorded, but let's just take COVID. Let's take COVID, for example. Meetings maybe had to be online, or had to be delayed or whatever. And even when things kind of open back up, a lot of elderly people is careful. So people that might have normally would have attended a council meeting won't. But if it's recorded, it's there for people. Maybe they're working that day, that night, or whatever. You got all those variables. Why not? Why take that away? I think it's a benefit for everybody. And I just think and I noticed that when you posted something on your campaign page about that, it was like one of the things that got the most attention. There's some real animosity with some of the people in the town because there has been several controversial issues. There was things that wasn't explained to satisfaction. You even had board members arguing back and forth because statements were made that we collectively decided, and then the person, no, we didn't do anything. So why not just cut all that confusion and have it on the record and have it where people can go watch it and see what's been discussed and see how the decisions came about.
Yeah, and let's clarify something here. And I mean, you could be a court transcriber. You could do that, and you're not going to get everything down. I mean, people are good at what they do, but so we're not trying to discredit anyone, but we forget things. We can leave things out. What's the retention of the mind? So if you've got a recording, or if you're now technology's advanced so much in the last 4 years, I would be FaceTime. We'd be doing FaceTime Live. We would actually be recording as well. People can watch it because we're not trying to hide. But when you make an error, you can fix it. You can go back and review it and watch that. And we had to do that several times to correct things we'd done. But you asked me about those questions. It's like, why was there not a grant applied for the fire hall, knowing the funding, knowing ARC funds, knowing Southeastern Development, knowing all the entities that were there? On the Grundy County side, which I think is number 4 as far as is the poorest in the counties, they always get funding. And, I'm not discrediting Grundy. I'm from Grundy. I love Grundy. It's beautiful. But, we know that as far as the income status it is, then you take the money out of capital reserves, but you've got a fire department that you're renting from someone. You've invested money. I'm not finding any fault within money invested in there because, it needed to be work for the firemen. It needed to be a facility they could use. Instead of continuing renting it to see if you could get funding, you just take the cash because it's there and you build it. And then you build it to a footprint that you can't pull the fire trucks through because the water tank's too close. I'm like, really? Some of these things are, why are these, and it's like, this is big money that you've spent that we had in reserves. The former administration.
And you're not, I mean, like some improvements are good, right? We don't try to.
Yeah, I mean, smart growth's good.
The thing I hate about politics is, when people just try to go out of their way to never give anybody credit and only try to point out something bad about what they've done. That's not what you're doing. You're just saying that when it comes to hundreds of thousands of dollars, there is smart ways to go about that. Being a little patient, traveling down a couple of roads might just get you half of your money. And as you said in your speech, a penny saved is a penny earned. So if you don't have to take it out of the coffers of the town, and thank God it was there. I mean, right? Because
it was.
You couldn't do those things now. There's not enough money there to do those kind of things. But you just have to go. It's not about spending money alone. Sometimes you have to spend money, and you said that. It's just about doing it in a smart way, checking all your options, really going down the list, and sometimes just being aware. And again, it goes back to sometimes the education of the availability of those things is because someone in Nashville is educating you,
because you had a dinner and you sit and talk with somebody, said, well, Marilyn, that there's money, and if you take this pathway here, you can find that money. And so you learn a lot of that. And that's, I mean, it really was a benefit in 6 years to go from where it was at to where you left it from a fiscal standpoint. I think was, really nothing short of impressive, especially considering you don't have a property tax. I work in politics in multiple counties, and my whole goal and purpose for doing so is to see good people get elected. There's some people that have a heart that can't do the job, right? Let's just face it, they can't do the job.
Mm-hmm.
But to have candidates that can do the job, and in this case have done the job and have the heart to do it right and for the right reason, it's just really rare. And we're not saying nobody else is not a good person. We're just saying, look, we already know we have a proven person here who cares about their town, who wants to do things the right way, who's got some good experience and education. Even from some you learn the hard way, but you have it. It's in your tool bag, and you're ready to go to work. So lastly, I just want to ask you a question. Knowing what I know, and I think what a lot of people know, why in the world would you want to do this again?
Well, my husband and I thought long and hard about it, and I said I would never do it again. But we feel like that, and actually several of the ministers and people I know and I trust, and I mean, people have came to me, and multiple, probably hundreds, come back to me. But I feel like I can do the right thing for the right reasons. I feel like we have before, working together with people. I think that I do care. I do love Monteagle. I do have the heart to see it build and grow for everybody, not just one person, not preferential treatment. But it's because I'm still, going to do it for a few years, and then hand off the torch to the next folks if we're reelected, and continue to help. Because if we build the right plan and we're smart about it, and we grow Monteagle the way it needs to be grown, and we protect Monteagle, and we protect, we can give our youth a good pathway. We can give our seniors good things. We can give the businesses good things. But it takes vision, it takes planning, it takes working together, and it takes getting it done, boots on the ground. And I know I can do it, but it's almost like a calling, and my dad used to say before he passed away, sometimes the silence is, as big of injustice or sin as not doing anything.
Yeah, you're right.
So I feel like I'm supposed to. Yeah, it's and
yeah. Oh no, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
And that was just, and one of the things I do want to bring up, I'll say we were blessed, God blessed us, and it was I didn't do it by myself, but we reduced liabilities too. That was important because we had, one minor lawsuit when I was mayor. And if you can reduce your liabilities and you can increase your income, yes, we did spend money, but we also made money. And when we left, our financial statements show that. That's how we got awards. That's how we did things. And it was a great staff that we worked with. They're in compliance. It was people that collectively pulled together with their differences and got things done. And I feel like I can do that again. That's the reason I'm running.
Yeah, I think that's probably one of the biggest things that I have, so I'm going to talk not as just a interviewer, but from a personal standpoint, just knowing you guys, you don't see a lot of people go through serious change at an older time in their life. And you're still 29, I understand, but
got to keep it there. Kids caught up with me.
But anyway, but just for you to have came as far as raise a family, and we have patterns, the way we do deal with things and process things. And then, you really did. You had, and by your own admission, you had some thoughts and you had some things that took a long time for you to just forgive yourself, and you beat yourself up, I think, much more than you should have. And I talked with you a lot about that. But to see you have made real change in who you are as a person, I just think that's great. And I wished that the people of Monteagle could really see that. I think that alone, you already have a record, you already have accomplishments, but I think that alone would be a great catapult, if you will, to the finish line if people just knew kind of the real deep down change. And like you said, and you've expressed this to me way before you ever thought about running again, that you just felt like it was a calling, and you didn't want to do it because sometimes it's nasty and sometimes it's hurtful, and you're disappointed when people say things to you that sometimes target your family, whatever. It's crazy. But down deep, you just had this, I think I'm supposed to, and I can't get away from it. And thank God we have some of that divine connection with purpose. Just want to let you say maybe your last words to the people as we end this interview. And you have been willing, by the way, to do a Q&A, which means that question and answer session. If we can pull that together, I know with everything COVID and stuff, but thank God for technology. But if we can pull that together somehow before the election, you've been willing to be so transparent that you will come live and take questions in real time and answer the people. So we're going to try to arrange that. Hopefully we'll get that done. But just tonight, I mean, we've been talking quite a while. For you to come out and say and deal with all the things you have, I think it's a great plus to Monteagle, and I personally feel like Monteagle would be great if they reelected you back to the office. But what would you like to say as we end this interview?
Well, you asked a question a while ago, and I will say this, even though, we're not eating anyone, we're just us, you know what I'm saying? But when people will come out and attack you as a person, they'll attack your personality, they'll attack your children, they'll attack your life, you know what I'm saying? And I'm talking through you, they do that. They attack your character, every way around for no reason, with untruths, that's hurtful and harmful. And it was just something God blessed me with. Yeah, it may upset me or I may go home and cry, but it hurts people. But what about those people that don't have any support system? They don't have any of that in them. What does it matter when people do that? And that happens in communities, and that happens in leadership. And when we all have our own agendas instead of a collective agenda, you'll see division. You see dissension. You see things decrease instead of increase. And when you work together for that agenda that's not my agenda or your agenda, but collectively it's the best for the common goal, which is Monteagle, and that's what it is. The heart of Monteagle with the components that fit into it. And that's what we see. And another thing we bring to the table, in development is that it's not mine. It's not yours. I'm using editorial senses here, even though you and I are talking, but that is what it's about. So I'd like to ask people for their vote, for their support. We will have boots on the ground. We will, do design meetings again. We may have to do Zoom. We may have to do online because of COVID. Things will be different. You know what I'm saying? And I'm talking about finding out what is the heart and the mission of this community. Try to come up with a plan that will protect it, that no matter what the outcome is in some of the situations that currently the town's facing, I can't answer that. The right thing for the right reasons. I'm not in the room with the attorney and with the insurance company and with everybody involved. You know what I'm saying? I'm a resident. I'm not in leadership right now, but if I am in 2 weeks and another board, we'll address it, and then we'll come out, we'll record it, we'll be transparent on what we're doing, But I would like to, of course, ask for their support, their vote, their prayers, and just say, God bless, Monteagle, and God bless each and every one of you, and thank you for your time. We will do our best if we're elected.
I think it's awesome. I think it's awesome Monteagle has you. And and one thing I know that the annals of time history is usually ends up being pretty kind to leaders who really do 2 things. One, be as transparent and do the best job they can, and 2, have it said of people, which is really your record. That's your record. Have it said of people that they did their best to be fair. It's not about doing everything that everybody agrees with. Someone said recently, if you want to satisfy everybody, being a leader, don't be a leader, sell ice cream, because you're just not going to satisfy everybody. But when people have a sense that you're going to do your best to do it right, to be as fair as possible, to be transparent about what you're doing, I just think history would treat you kind and what you've done for Monteagle. So thank you for your time. I know it's actually late at night. The presidential debate was on earlier, and you decided to do this. So we're going to post this for all to see. Thank you for doing this.
Thank you.
God bless.